Lord, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Brumbaugh? Here. Mr. Kress?
Here.
Dr. Hinkleman? Here. Mrs. Kim Parsons? Here. Mr. Gates?
Here. 2, hearing of the public. Do you have anybody
Come on in. Just sign in there.
who would like to speak to the board?
Yes.
Huh? Did you want to speak? No. Did you want to speak to the board?
Yes.
All right, give me a second. I'm going to read this off for you.
You can sit over here if you'd like.
How to address the Board of Education Policy 169.1. To speak to items on the agenda, hearing of the public is the time provided for public participation during board meetings. Board members also welcome public input outside of board meetings. The presiding officer of the board will recognize anyone wishing to speak to an item on the agenda, how to be recognized and what to do when recognized. Excuse me. When it is your turn to address the board, please raise your hand and wait to be recognized by the presiding officer. State name and address board members as a group. Guidelines for public input. The Board of Education members may ask clarifying questions. The presiding officer may use his or her discretion regarding recognized speakers more than once on the same subject. Individual remarks shall not exceed 3 minutes unless the presiding officer grants additional time. The presiding officer may rule repetitive statements out of order. All statements shall be directed to the presiding officer. No person may address or question board members individually. Please state your name and...
Can we go up there?
Yes, you're welcome to go up to the podium, please. Please do.
Know his name and address?
I'm Nathan Sharp. I live on 4343 South Kessler Frederick. At the last meeting, I think it was like 2 meetings ago, I asked the board if there's anything I could do to help regarding like the levy situation, and I was told like talking at the meeting could help. So I guess I'd like to use my time to talk about how some of the programs at the school have impacted me as a student. I know right now the band program isn't under any, at least that I know publicly, under any stress for like cuts to it. But I know in the future it could be a possibility with the circumstances that are happening. So I guess would it be okay if I talk to the people in my district about like how that program has impacted me and many other students?
Absolutely, please do.
So going into high school, there was a lot of, I was overbooked when it comes to activities, I should say. I was doing football, class president, doing band, so overachiever, I know. But it got to a point where that was getting really like, it was really just weighing down on me. And so I was like, okay, I gotta drop one of these things. So I was like, might as well be banned, you know. I had to miss like half the first week for football camp, so already wasn't doing too great. So I go up to Mr. Roberts, our director, and I'm like, hey, look man, I'm really sorry, I'm just really struggling. He said, no. Well, he didn't just say no, he said, like, look Nathan, I know that when you come in here, like I see all this like passion and determination you have when you're practicing and stuff. And I think that if you just give it like one more day, you know, if you still don't like it after that, it's whatever, but if you just give it one more day. And that's probably the best decision I've ever made, if I'm being honest. I got to meet all the people that were in band, all the seniors, all the upperclassmen. It was a really good time. And over the years, I've been more involved with the band program. I help out with like the fundraisers and stuff. And so that eventually led to when it came time for drum major auditions, I was like, why not me? I can do it. And here I am. And so now it becomes a story that I get to tell to our underclassmen about how we just keep doing and keep trying. Like, it's really awesome. You can like accomplish whatever you want. I say this story not to just yap, I guess for better words, not to just talk, but to say that if the music program is cut, there's a lot of kids that might not find that thing that gives them the spark. They might not find what really like drives them for like a professional, either like a professional passion or just like leadership skills. A lot of my leadership skills have been developed in band. And so, am I allowed to like talk about the levy and stuff, or?
Sure.
Sure. If you're waiting for things to sort themselves out and get better, don't. You know, we're coming out on this kind of our last chance. I know it's not directly this one, but coming up things aren't, there's not going to magically work out. I think that it's best case scenario to do the levy and help make things better. And it isn't permanent, right? It's only the first levy term is how many years?
5 years.
5 years. I say, take it from there. I'm sure that doesn't mean a lot coming from a kid who doesn't have a job. I get that, but I don't see any better ideas. Yeah.
I appreciate you sharing your input and your concerns and your desire to get this levy passed, and we appreciate your contribution to the schools and what you've done over your time here. Are you senior this year?
Mm-hmm.
So thank you for coming and sharing.
Try to go down then.
What's that?
Try to sit down.
Yes, you need. Is there anybody else that would like to address the board? All right. Moving on. Superintendent report.
It's a really rough act to follow.
I know.
Okay, so I have a few things just to breeze through, and then there was a request from the board that we run through the PowerPoint presentation that we had done in the previous meeting, just to kind of go over all the facts again regarding the ballot request next month, and give the board another opportunity to throw in details and thoughts along the way. So, but first, just wanted to let the board know that we had talked, it's been several months now, regarding Premier's plan with the athletic trainer. And now Premier is following that same model with our behavioral health therapists in the district. So we met with a group from Premier, soon to be Fidelity, as you'll recall. It's been about a week or so ago. They presented a new agreement, and they would like to have a decision by June. I made it very clear to them regarding the levy ask in May. Could determine the direction that we go with that. And so the big note from them is if they provide a service that is billable, that they're going to bill it. It used to be that folks that were on assistance, families that were on assistance, or students that qualified for CareSource years ago were the only students that could see one of the therapists. And then right around 2020, spring of 2020, we added another therapist just right before the COVID shutdown that had more of an open door policy. So now in this model, both of the therapists would have an open door policy, so it wouldn't be kids that were just on assistance, families that were on assistance. It would be any student still. And as a result of that, if it's a billable service that they provide, they're going to bill it. So there's a cost associated with each therapist that's been outlined in the agreement. And then there is a reduction factor based on what they're able to recover in terms of billable servicing. So
Probably won't know that until after a calendar year, as far as what their
correct.
recovery is.
Correct. So something for the board to consider while there's still a few weeks to think about it. One therapist in the district, maybe 1.5, or we maintain the 2. So all of that is on the table as far as Premier / Fidelity goes. But again, something for the board to consider. Maybe think waiting on the results in May to see how you want to go with that. Would say that, and there are others in the room, that if the board would like to hear what they have to say as well, it's not a requirement or anything, but I know a lot of our students and families benefit from the work of the 2 therapists that we have in the district. In a variety of circumstances, some very emotional, some not so much. Maybe just kids need an extra support, but it's well used, and I think it's appreciated by students and families. So, on the same note, again, the board is aware that, of course, if the levy doesn't pass, that one of the positions on the table would be our school resource officer. The Miami County Sheriff's Department has been very flexible in maintaining that service and not moving in a different direction in spite of the unknown of the levy ask in May. But there was a message I received from Jamie McGlinch, and they're looking at May 16th. That they would like to have, if we were going to move forward, they'd like to have that agreement signed by May 16th. And if not, they will not be able to provide a school resource officer for the next school year.
So basically, they're going to hold that position until May 16th. So we have time to make that decision depending on what happens.
Correct.
I have a question on the previous point. On therapist, when you say billable services, would that mean like the therapist works outside of school hours, like with the family or the student, and bills their insurance? I'm trying to figure out.
Yes, on the second part of your question, they would work with families outside the school day, but for the most part, I would say the majority of their clientele is just the student. And so if they do provide a billable service, then yeah, they're going to bill the insurance. That's all part of their intake. There's an intake meeting that involves the parent-family member at the beginning.
They would reduce our cost by what they bill out.
Correct.
Just making sure I understand, follow the.
Call correctly. Is that what they're proposing with the therapist?
Yeah, they have a fee schedule in an exhibit in the contract with a fee schedule.
Did you send that out? You might.
I did not.
Okay.
I did not. So this can be available to the board throughout the meeting, and if you'd like to have a copy of it, it's not an issue.
Okay.
And then going back to the SRO decision, does that mean we probably will need either way a special meeting before the 16th? Our next regular meeting isn't prior to that?
Likely. Yeah, likely. Yeah, I mean, we could do some acrobatics in this meeting to authorize me to sign it should the levy pass, but I mean, it might just be better to wait. Okay, so on a completely different note, the TRC. It is on, lack of a better phrase, life support right now. Bethel is exiting the league in 2 years. Riverside has accepted an offer from, I believe, the OHC. I'm not sure when that's effective. I think that would also be, per the bylaws, I believe that would be 2 years as well. And Mr. Watson at the high school has reached out to WOAC and the OHC, both of whom are not interested in expanding or offering Milton-Union an invitation. So for better or for worse, I think we are circling back to the SWBL now. Not sure where that's going to land, but I believe the SWBL is very interested again in having Milton-Union amongst its member schools.
Who's in the SWBL now?
Let's see, Brookville. There's a large school district and a large district side of the SWBL, and then there's a smaller school side. At the time, when we were in the SWBL, Northridge was on our side. Again, Brookville, Valley View, Carlisle,
Franklin.
Monroe,
here we go, Madison. How can I have forgotten?
Oakwood, Valley View, Waynesville, Madison, Eaton, Carlisle, Brookville, Ross, Monroe, Franklin,
Yeah,
Edgewood,
because they've
Belleville.
gone south.
They've added Edgewood and Ross,
Where's Ross?
Cincinnati,
Close to Cincinnati.
Long Bus Ride.
Hamilton County.
And you said
Lots of long bus
the
rides.
WOAC and what other conference did we?
The OHC. The WOAC would have been really good for drive time, but
Isn't Newton in the WOAC?
Yep.
Why, they just don't have space, or?
Yeah, I think that
I'm not
there
asking you this.
They won't merge?
wasn't our time. We would be one of the, if not the largest school in the WOAC, so.
But
have some
Riverside,
reservation about that.
Riverside is in it, looking to go, or
I
is that
think
the
they're headed to
OHC?
the OHC. If I'm following the storyline correctly, I think they've been offered an invitation by the OHC.
I mean, is the TRC gonna just collapse on itself? I mean, because if we're getting rid of 2, that's, what, that leaves 6 schools?
Yeah, yeah. There's been a push to try to invite new members without success. Even perhaps, football scheduling is the tricky thing, and so there's even been a proposal to include maybe a football-only school district, again, without success. Everybody seems to be happy where they are.
What about merging with one of those conferences? And if it's you could do like the SWBL did and go to a smaller school, bigger school, divisions,
It's been,
crossover games.
it's correct, it's been discussed, and they're not interested. We were hoping that that someone would just pick up all of the TRC schools, maybe as its own division within a larger conference, and that's not interested. So more news to follow, but we're in that cycle again of trying to find a place to land. So it's been 2 or 3 board meetings ago, but we had a presentation from a gentleman from Enrollment Management Services to talk about how to, leverage insurance costs and claims to benefit the bottom line for the school district. And I've had a hard time connecting with them. I know there was a request from a board member that, hey, let's get a proposal from them to see what it's going to cost to engage with them over the course of the next school year, and maybe get moving on educating staff members on what the program is and how it would support them. And to haven't been able to connect with them either by email or the form interface on their website. Left a voicemail message today, so trying to connect with them to see if it's still a possibility for Milton-Union to work with them.
That's who the EPC recommends?
That is who the EPC recommended, yes.
Yes.
We got their contact information from Doug Merkel at the EPC.
But are you saying, have you been reaching out to him and just not getting a response back?
Correct.
Okay,
Mostly through email.
okay.
Also,
Be a sign.
yeah, yeah.
Not a good thing.
It's happened to me before. Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Okay, so if there aren't any questions about any of those things, I mean, those all are kind of works in progress, more news to follow. We can transition to, again, this is the same PowerPoint presentation the board has worked from in a previous meeting. Just thought that it would be a good idea to go through it again, especially with Mr. Beck here, to just try to get this information out a second time with maybe a little bit more detail. So the way I see this going is, this is kind of a group presentation. So I can start things off, but I mean, feel free to chime in and provide details, especially if some of you have worked pretty hard in some of these areas that we presented previously and know these things very well. So feel free to chime in, okay? All right, Milton-Union has not passed new operating money since 2008. Currently, we have a 1 1/4 earned income tax levy that can be used for operating expenses. The other 1.15 has been primarily used to pay down the bonds, construction bonds. So we are limited in the way that those dollars can be used. The most recent new operating money levy was passed in 2003. And I think this is a good time to say that public school funding, property taxes, school income tax, the whole 9 yards is super hard to understand. So due to House Bill 920, without new construction or property additions, tax collected on real estate does not increase from what was originally approved by voters. So in some of the information that's on our website, we tried to provide a couple of examples of residences within the Milton-Union attendance area to demonstrate how those dollars collected initially are the same, potentially the same this year. But new construction is different. If there is an upgrade, somebody built an addition on their home, taxes can increase. So yes, the school district is getting more, but that is very difficult to explain to folks. So again, not to bury the lead, in the absence of new construction, property additions, those taxes originally collected are the same that are collected currently.
I think it's important to note, I mean, obviously we have some big growth in West Milton going on now, and how the development's being funded is through tax increment financing and CRAs, which although, people see this and say, well, why aren't you getting additional funds from the new development? Yes, eventually we will. But there's a time with the CRA and the TIF, it's going to be 5 to 6 years before we from the construction of a property in that development before we see collections on the improvements with the new construction. So even though we are seeing growth in the district, we're not necessarily seeing additional revenue from that growth immediately. Down the road it will, but in the short term, it doesn't help our current situation.
Yeah, we have received some phone calls at the board office regarding some of that. I think some of those questions are probably best answered by the municipality more so than personnel here. But people do have questions about new construction, the new development, and tax abatement, and how much the school district gets, if the school district gets anything. So again, those questions strangely have started coming in to the district. So not wholesale, but yeah, people are trying to figure it out, and I don't think that it's not clear to them, I think, how all that works, and so they're seeking out information. And whereas some of us might feel like, well, why is the school district talking about new development so much? Why can't the school district just let that go? I think a good answer there is because people are asking questions about it. So we have to pay attention to that and respond to those.
And there's a lot of confusion about the subject.
Correct. Yep. On the same note, we have received, again, these aren't like 100 calls or anything, but we have had folks ask questions about this levy ask being an earned income tax levy and just clarifying whether or not their taxes are going to go up. And, hey, will my Social Security be affected? And, we've tried to communicate, well, I mean, the best way to tell, obviously, is, well, first, do you have any earned income? And if you're not sure, did you just, through the current tax year, did you pay anything to the school in terms of income tax? And I think folks sometimes even confuse income tax with property tax. And they think, well, I have paid some tax to the school. And, well, you probably paid property tax to the school, but if you don't have any earned income, you probably haven't paid this. And unless you have a part-time job or something, you're not going to pay this. So, again, I'm not sure that that's clear to folks, the difference between an earned income tax traditional income tax, or even income taxes versus property taxes. So, and again, I just based that on some random calls that have been made to the district that we've been asked by residents to help explain. So next month, we have a 5-year, 0.75% earned income tax levy on the ballot. The Ohio Department of Taxation estimates that if passed, the levy will generate approximately $1.8 million. We would not see any additional funds this year. It would begin in 2026 that the school district begins to see collections on that levy. As the board knows, you have, through trial and error, we've all learned a lot about taxes in the state of Ohio and the reason for an earned income tax, other than the fact that it just makes sense for some of our residents. When you have an earned income tax already, you cannot also add a traditional income tax. So because we had an earned income tax on the book, any increase would also have to be an earned income tax levy as well. So here you're seeing how Milton-Union schools per pupil revenue and spending compare to the state average. These slides are on the school district website, so it's probably difficult to see for anybody viewing on Facebook or eventually on YouTube. Milton-Union residents contribute 33% less local revenue for school operations than the state average. State funding continues to decline. I would also say that state funding has become, even in its decline, it has become more and more unpredictable. And Carrie's going to chime in on that very soon. Milton-Union receives 7% less funding per pupil and spends nearly 12% less on each student than the state average. Go ahead. Go ahead.
And it's the previous slide. I know I hear talk about inside millage, and we talk about it. And it's another thing that's difficult to explain, but there is inside millage in every taxing district. And where our school district, if it is in that taxing district, there's up to 10 mills available for inside millage. Now that 10 mills is divided up among CTC, library, life squad, municipality, village. So on average, I think in all the taxing districts the school is in, we have about 3.6 mills of inside millage. The thing with inside millage is, and again, I believe I have this understood correctly, is that the inside millage does actually adjust for inflation or float with appraisal values, and it's not unlimited to that original ask dollar amount. So if home values in the district go up, that a couple mills of inside millage will adjust up to the new home values, and we would get the increase in that. It's not a ton of money because the millage is small. And again, you're only increasing, if you have 500,000, it goes to 573,000 or 575,000. The net increase to the district over that time period would be the 75,000. So it's not like a huge windfall, but there is a small portion that does adjust when homes are reappraised and values go up. So of all the millage on the books, that would be roughly around the 3.6 mills that would float. So I know it's been talked about, so trying to get the understanding of how that works. So example, the municipality gets 3.4 mils of inside millage out of that 10 in the districts where we overlap. So that kind of gives you an idea of how that falls. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yep. Yeah, I think we can go to the next slide. So here, and this is important to note, when this is the presentation that's on the school district website. So when this was made and posted on the website, the initial budget proposal was from the governor's office, Milton-Union, and that's in bold about the middle row up there, stood to lose in that in the governor's proposal. And so a lot of times our residents want to know, well, how do we compare to the other school districts in the county? Some folks see us as being more similar to some of the other school districts in Miami County. So here you see a comparison of how all of the school districts locally stood to do with the governor's original proposal.
A lot of these figures based on the funding of districts is based on the local capacity of the communities to support the schools. Is that correct, Carrie?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know how the local capacity is figured?
So there are several factors that are factored into the local capacity. So it's the wealth of, basically the wealth of the district. So income coming into the households, as well as property value amounts. It determines, it tells the state how much a community is able to pay for the education of their students. And what happens then, at that point, the state says, okay, so the community, you can pay for this much, this is what we're going to chip in and help with, for lack of better words.
So the formula is essentially saying you have to get this much from the community to support the schools.
Mhm.
So yeah, I actually talked to the county auditor for a long time about this, because I was wondering how districts that have a lot smaller student populations were getting more state funding versus our district, just to make sure that it's our math right, you know, just crossing T's and dotting I's. But she gave me total property values for our district and median income, and I know what people may come to believe, but the property values in our district are high compared to other districts, and that factors into the ability to pay for your school as a taxpayer, which then is factored into how the state divides up funding. So that's kind of how you back up that number. I was surprised when I heard property values and some other items compared to other districts, but that's how you get to those numbers.
So here is a similar district comparison based on the state's methodology. And so in descending order, those are the districts that are most similar to Milton-Union according to a number of variables. So Fairless Local is in this list is the one that is supposed to be most similar to Milton-Union. Again, it's a win some, lose some scenario there. So compared to similar districts, I think what you can see there is Milton-Union, again, the original proposal from the governor's office, stood to lose. But there's been some changes since then. So, Carrie, do you want to switch to, were you planning on switching to the other document, or were you just going to talk that through?
Let's just talk it through. I don't want to.
Okay.
I don't want to bring up too many numbers just to convolute the process. So
The suspense is killing me.
oh, it's great. So the House budget recently was passed, and they added another factor into it. So basically, what they're saying is, if your cash balance exceeds 30% of your previous year expenditures, the county budget commissioners are required to reduce the property tax rates. Why is that a problem? Those commissioners are elected into office, so in my opinion, that's not a good thing. It is, in a sense, the community loses control of what they want to vote in as a tax levy. So as it stands, I said 30% was the threshold. Milton-Union is sitting at 32.6%, which that's not hateful. It could be a lot worse. We have 7 other districts in our county that are going to see a large reduction. Bradford is sitting at 78% right now. Yeah, so I kind of did an analysis on the data that we were pushed through, that we were given through the simulation. So if you take out of 609 districts in the state, 123 districts have a cash balance that is less than the 30% of the prior year expenditures. Only 2 districts are sitting right at 30%. And 484 districts have a cash balance that is greater than 30% of the prior year expenditures. So what does that say? They're attacking those ones who are sitting with their high cash balances. So Brad and I sat in on a meeting with Senator Huffman, which you have the House and the Senate, but I feel like some really, really good information came out from some treasurers who kind of gave a testimony as to what's going on. So another district, not in our county, but a county to the west of us, they had been saving money, general fund money, to build a facility, I think, I don't even know what kind of facility it was just an addition on. And they had been saving all that money in their general fund to put this facility up. They're now going to be punished for it because they had a high cash balance in their fund. So instead of not going to the voters, they were strategic in how they handled all of this, and now they're going to be punished. Another thing worth mentioning too is all the COVID money that came in was being, the general fund was not having to endure a lot of those expenses to help out with the recovery efforts of what was going on in education with COVID. So again, this is coming right on the heels of COVID funds helping support the general funds. So like I said earlier, so the voters can vote something in for Milton-Union School District, but if our cash balance is too high, the commissioners can go ahead and just drop our property tax rates for us. So again.
Is that a done deal?
So this is the House.
Yeah.
Theirs is voted. The Senate, Senator Huffman claims that they haven't even talked about this yet. So what we're on like a month timeline as to what is actually going to happen with the Senate to see what goes on up to the governor.
I know the governor occasionally gets perspective on different changes. Has he offered any?
I have not seen anything through, so Brad and I kind of watch both of our professional organizations, and they have not pushed anything out yet from the governor's standpoint yet, that I've seen. So Brad, you haven't seen anything?
I have not.
Yeah.
On a fiscal standpoint, are they going to keep us having to do 5-year forecasts with that limitation?
Yes.
So how are you going to be able to look out 5 years?
Stability is.
You have no ability to keep the cash reserve.
So while I don't believe
And the
this.
state's on a 2-year budget for us.
So also, while I don't think this would happen in Miami County because our auditor's office is pretty fabulous, the other counties, they drop that millage. How do we trust that they're going to bring it back up and manage that once the forecasts reflect it or don't reflect a decrease? So that was another concern, is there were a lot of people that are concerned with how the county auditors are going to manage this and the budget commissioners. So.
How often are they going to review?
And I thought they liked to see the 90 days cash in hand. That's got to be pretty.
It's funny you say that because there's not been one mention of the cash on hand. They have not said one thing about that. So they send us all these simulations and then give us a little bit of relief, but then drop in there the 30%, it was 25. So I'll give it a little credit and put it to 30. But
What's the relief on the?
So just for Milton-Union, it's not much. So an increase from fiscal year 25 to 26 in formula funding of just under $26,000.
So it goes from negative 28 to plus 26. What about from 26 to 27?
26 to 27, it's 12,932.
So
It's a better swing.
yeah.
It's a better swing, but they're also going to be reducing what comes in on our property taxes, which that's the information that I don't have.
Right.
So, great, you're giving us this little extra money, but
Is it dollar for dollar?
I don't know. It's just been,
There's a lot of uncertainty.
and that's the frustrating part. For some, for a district that's nickel and diamond right now, we don't have a lot of information to make good decisions.
But you said they have a month, like they have to.
It's between 4 and 6 weeks. I don't remember what the exact timeline was, is because Senator Huffman, he Did not have a lot of information for us, but there were some readings that had to happen, and then there was another couple weeks before they were going to actually present it, and then they were going to actually present it. So, yeah,
When would it take effect?
next year. So fiscal year 26, 25, 26.
So, right around the corner.
I can assure you though that Chris Moore, who helps me with the forecasting, the May update, this will not be honed in on, but if anybody will know what's going on, he sent me so many articles and analysis of everything that's going on. We're in good hands with him knowing exactly what's going on up there. He gets his hands into the legislators for sure.
I don't want to put you on the spot, but
Oh, geez.
but when would the forecast, when could a school district be able to forecast that?
November. I mean, you could do preliminary forecast and kind of plug them in, and Chris would be able to help plug that information into all the cells that are behind what our forecast looks like.
So all things being equal, the spring forecast versus the fall forecast is going to look pretty different.
It could.
And so when all people ask questions like, hey, where all the money go?
Which is what happened right when I came here as well, is there was an influx in state aid. It looked great. But they all said it's not going to happen anymore. Well, here we are.
Yeah, I think on the surface, property tax relief sounds really good. I think that, making the state aid, I guess, lack of a better phrase, even out over the course of this budget is nice. I think that schools can't plan for this. And I think for years we've been, and I speak for, I think, a lot of school districts across the state right now, that, we're not a bank, but I think there's an expectation that we're good fiscal stewards. And I think a lot of school districts across the state have tried really hard to do that. And this just throws a wrench into that stewardship. So I wonder how school districts will behave moving forward. Is there an advantage to maintain such a healthy cash balance? So
I might be able to.
Right.
I think it's gonna be wait and see how this works out.
So yeah, again, important to note, it's not done yet.
Yep.
But also, what you're seeing in this presentation does not reflect, I guess, the ever-changing drama of what state funding is going to look like in the next budget. Okay, so as the board already knows, there's been a number of cost savings measures that have already been implemented. So we've consolidated the district to one daily time schedule, which has allowed us to increase the efficiencies of teachers and their services across the district. So that is based on their licensure areas. So if we have folks that are licensed 4-9 and there was a class that needed to be picked up at the middle school, or there was a class that needed to be picked up at the elementary, that we kind of leveraged that, so that obviously when the students are available, the teachers have to be available at the same time. So that is why the 8 to 3 schedule was needed. Now, the next domino that fell was transportation. So, but I can't say this enough, but I've said it a million times, that the change in the schedule was to achieve savings in staffing, efficiencies in staffing, savings in human resources. We didn't do that I don't mean to speak for the board, but there wasn't an intent to cut transportation. That is the most outward-facing thing that affected parents and families. But that is not what we started with. We started with efficiencies in staffing. Folks saw increases in activity, athletic, and instructional fees. There were staffing reductions through retirement and attrition. There were just simply positions that we did not fill again. Again, we made some changes in transportation because we had to at that point. Again, we bused all the same number of kids, but we did that at the same time. To do that, we had to increase the radius. So there were restrictions that affected the number of students and families eligible in district-provided transportation that did not exist in the previous school year. So through all of these things together, we returned $1.25 million into the current 5-year forecast, and we still expected to deficit spend in fiscal year 27. So if the levy passes or not in May, we're proposing another $350,000 in cuts, again through the consolidation of positions, decreasing administrative staffing levels. I think it's important to note that this is our elementary assistant principal. Also retirement, attrition, and reduction in force potentially, and decreases in curriculum resources. So we had a schedule of when academic content areas, specials, special instructional areas were eligible for curriculum review and purchasing, and we're adjusting that timeline and in so doing decreasing expenditures on curriculum. Am I leaving anything out there? What happens if it passes? We're going to increase bus services in the 25-26 school year. I think that is dependent on a number of variables. It is yet to be determined the radius. It is, and based on the radius, we may need to hire additional bus drivers. So that's why we expect an increase in busing services, but can't provide more clarity than that. Hire an additional school counselor at Milton-Union High School. There are a number of positions that are super valuable across the district, depending upon where staff members are, K-12, or what departments they're in. They may have different expectations or thoughts about what is a higher priority. The board has considered this to be a very high priority. Our current school counselor at the high school is a one-woman show. It has always been a team up to this school year. It is a big job, especially this time of year with scholarships and graduation. So it's important that we have more personnel in that office to support kids. Undertake a controlled return of staffing levels and services following receipt of new monies. As we started, we know that the district is not going to see new revenue in 2025. That would be in 2026. I think this is a wait and see. I hope that our public does not expect a return to the staffing levels of 2 years ago immediately. It's just not in the cards financially. We're going to have to carefully do that over the course of time.
And Brad, I think we are down. We've trimmed all the fat. We're down to the bones. And hopefully we do pass, and as we do pass, we just rebuild and really think about each position. Like, how could it be used better before it's brought back? Think of all the different angles to really make it most efficient as we rebuild back. Just making sure everything is done strategically with all that.
Yeah, I think that, well, for one, I think, if I'm understanding what you're saying, I don't think that, of course this is up to the board, but I don't think we could put the toothpaste back in the tube as far as, starting the day at 8 o'clock in the morning and ending the day at 3. I think that has gone surprisingly well, outward facing towards the community. I mean, it's not been without issue, parking, student pickup and drop off, teachers getting used to new grade levels, and in some cases, new courses that they haven't taught previously, or new grade levels and courses that have not taught previously. But, I think that we have to think about staffing within that model and not returning to a staggered start.
The first check mark, though, I think the board is committed when passing to bring back an increased level of bus service. The reason for that, you just can't say, we're going to do this, this, and this, is because of the software modeling we have to have, the number of drivers. There's a lot more that factors into it than just, we don't want to just say we're going to do this, 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 and then not be able to find the drivers to get it done in time for the beginning of the next school year. That's the other thing. There's not going to be a lot of time window to turn this around. So I think that's the only thing stopping from a full-throated pledge. Exactly what's going to happen with busing is because of several X factors to get it done.
I've had multiple discussions with Curtis about
Yeah.
how many drivers we need in buses to achieve this, radius and whatnot. It is something that the board is committed to do. It will happen, maybe not at the rate that we'll go at the fastest rate we can, but there's logistics to look at and take care of. It's hard to hire a bus driver as it is, but we will certainly move towards that if the levy passes in May, or if the income tax passes in May.
And the other factor is the number of bus riders changes from fiscal year to fiscal year. So, you might have 1,000 bus riders this year, and next year it might be 850. Well, that recalculates all the routing and the number of students that we can put on each bus, which then determines how many drivers you need. So just trying to relay that, the logistics behind the scenes to get stuff restored. I guess it's always easier to tear something down than to build it back. So just to reiterate that fact. But the intent is there to bring, and everyone's on board to get busing back, so.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the numbers are based off of, our current, we're basing these numbers off of our current, student rider participation. So, that's what it's forecasted at. We have X now, you can, a lot of percentage of kids you may lose, and then what you're going to gain the following year on top of what potential services are brought back distance-wise.
So what happens if the earned income tax levy fails? We think that perhaps there would be a greater need to staff and support the number of students that require coursework for graduation in 9th and 10th grade, so that might result in a natural reduction of the number of AP, College Credit Plus, upper level coursework that's taught by Milton-Union teaching staff members. There's another variable at work there too. It's not just the earned income tax levy failing, but we may need to push staff more towards 9th grade math, 10th grade math, 9th grade English, 10th grade English, those classes that if kids are going to struggle when they get to high school, it's typically in English and math, it's typically in 9th grade, and extra support in those areas could be needed and important. We talked already about eliminating the potential of eliminating the school resource officer position and all that goes along with that. Reducing instructional supply material costs, reassess curriculum purchases, we've talked about that already. Imposing fees for outside or community use of Milton-Union facilities and fields. We do have a fee schedule for the use of facilities and fields. We don't often have to use it. Ironically, we just got a request for something that we will use that facility schedule, but but this would be an across-the-board thing now. Again, to continue with that, what happens if the earned income tax fails? Double participation fees for activities and athletics. That's $200 per sport activity at the high school, $180 per sport activity at the middle school, no failing cap. Eliminating district-provided transportation to state-sponsored athletic events, as well as all extracurricular and co-curricular activities. There will be a whole process with that that we have only started to think about in theory, and we are not going to dig into that unless we absolutely have to. So I can't provide details on that yet. I think that's such a big job that we're going to have to wait and react to what happens in May to move forward with that. Reducing the number of paid supplemental athletic, co-curricular, and extracurricular positions by 38. We have gone through the supplemental wage schedule and all of the jobs that, all the supplemental positions that are listed. Some of those things in the current contract are things that have not been filled and staffed for years. For example, newspaper. We haven't staffed newspaper for years. But there are other things, sports programs, clubs, activities that there are real, live, breathing humans that are doing that work for kids. That we are reducing those positions should the levy not pass, and the elimination of 9th grade athletic teams. So there is a list that is not all inclusive, but those are some of the things that would not be available should the levy not pass.
I think it should be elaborated that those require supplemental pay, teachers are paid to facilitate those programs.
Correct. Correct. Staff members, or it's certainly offered to all staff members. Sometimes there are situations where once those positions are offered to staff members, no one might take it. That doesn't happen a lot, but then it can become available to lay people. We have had that happen with class advisors in the past. So this is probably a spot where the board may want to chime in, because I know there's been a lot of thought on structuring the ask the way that you have with the 5-year term, and the purpose for the 5-year term as a bridge to better days. So is that something you want to talk through?
Yeah, I can elaborate on it. The thought process is when I look at the bonds remaining, the debt load remaining, where we're at in the PI fund, and the excess versus, or the revenue generated annually on the PI side versus what the average expenses have been over the last several fiscal years, I thought I saw an opportunity to where if we really tighten down, we could pay the debt off considerably earlier with the PI side in the next 3 to 5 years, hopefully closer to the 3-year side. And then during that, so if you get the 0.75% to get us operating, we're basically getting a bridge. So asking the community, give us 5 years to get this done. And after we get the debt paid off, then we can go back to the voters to reallocate the income tax. And that's the important piece. Right now, it's so heavily going to the PI side that it's kind of starved the operating side of the ledger. It's not keeping up with inflation.
And just go ahead and explain why you can't take that money, why you can't take that money in a certain way without levy,
So
like,
money that comes into the PI side cannot be moved around. It cannot be moved across to the operating side. Also, you can't just reallocate the current income tax because of when it was passed, it was tied directly to the bonds. So it was almost like the people that bought the bonds had a guarantee on the bottom. If you picture a certificate or a bond holding paper, which you don't see anymore, on the bottom of it, it was being backed by that income tax that was passed. So you can't change the rules of the game, for lack of a better term, to the debt holders 12, 13 years into it. So we're not allowed to adjust that allocation. And we tried, I tried, banging my head, different ways to try to maneuver around that. But there was no good way. But it came to me, and some others, that hey, the reason we can't do this is because of the bonds being outstanding. If we could pay those off early, that would release the handcuffs, and now we can change that allocation with voter approval. So the shortest window I think we can do it is 5 years. So that's why we're doing a 5-year ask. And in return, if we get that, we're going to be held accountable to accomplish this, right? All just sitting here. To get that done in time, so when it would come up for renewal, we can sit here in this room, hopefully, and say, hey, the debt's paid off, we don't need to renew that, we're going to go back for one new income tax, because there will be two on the books at that time, one new one, and again, if the math holds and the state funding doesn't get too wacky, at a reduced rate. What that exact rate is, I can't promise that right now, because we'll see where we're at in 3 or 4 years. But I do think we'll be able to reduce it down, go to one income tax, fix the allocation to fund both sides of the ledger, and hopefully put the district on a path for decades, not 2 and 5 year cycles, to be fiscally sustainable. So that's the goal. And I think we can accomplish it, but we need that bridge to get there. So, does that make sense?
It's great. So again, just to reiterate, this is a 5-year term, 0.75% earned income tax levy on the ballot next month. Again, it's going to generate approximately $1.8 million as estimated by the Ohio Department of Taxation, and we'll start collections in 2026. One thing that is not clear in this presentation that I believe the board has already committed to is some movement of school district property at Wright Road. So whether the levy passes or not, I believe the board has committed to doing something with that.
It is the intent of the board to do something with that, whether it's selling it or more likely selling it, and more to come. It's not going to be a quick process. I've heard, why don't we have some real estate signs out there right now? It's because there's a lot of decisions to be made before we decide what we are going to do with the property. But I can guarantee you it's going to be a piece of property that is going to be handled in the future. It's not going to be immediate, but it's going to be handled.
I mean, the idea with that is to dump more funds into the PI fund to help pay off the bonds. So, I mean, that's the strategy behind that. Also, with the purchase of the property across the street, which is more strategically aligned with the campus all being over here, the need for that property now is less, except for the practice football facility, which when you start getting quotes on even reworking to get a surface playable with grass, get it level, is costly. So that's kind of been the work through, like how much is this going to cost if we sell all that versus what you gain? You're going to lose money on that 1.5 acres versus just keeping it and selling off the rest. So that's the process it's been, and we're pretty much there. We have a pretty good idea now. But again, it's to help gain money to pay down the bonds and be able to reallocate the income tax, earned income tax.
It's a good plan. So there's one thing that I should add, and I know that the board has heard a lot about administrative staffing levels. So should the levy not pass, we would be cutting an additional administrator. So we're already cutting one position no matter what. If the levy doesn't pass, we'll be cutting another administrative position. That will be the Director of Special Education. All that means is we are going to have to probably share the duties of that position among a lot of different people. And several years ago, you folks might remember that this has been several years ago, student services and curriculum was the responsibility of one person. And that was a pretty heavy-duty ask of that person. At one time, that was Scott Bloom. Then it became Lori Grube. And even though we've had the same number of administrators over the course of the last 3 years or so, as people have left, we've reorganized. And one of the ways we elected to reorganize was to have a director of curriculum and a director of special education. So, because those are needs that the district has that are substantial and too much for one person to do. But I think when people think about new positions that the district has created. I guess maybe they're thinking about positions at one time that were combined like that, or, maybe they're forgetting that at one time we had a business manager, or, one time, a lot of the operational duties lived with the treasurer, which was also not a sustainable model. So, we've just kind of reshuffled the deck in terms of administrative personnel and positions. We haven't increased administrators, but I think that also it's important when a district is in the situation that we're in, that cuts are across the board. So the administrative staff should feel that the same way that the teaching staff and the classified staff and anybody else does as well. So we'll just have to rally the troops and make sure that we provide what we need to provide per the state of Ohio and meeting the needs of our children. But I wanted that to be on record. And that's all I have, and that's enough. And sorry for the lengthy superintendent's report. I hope it was helpful.
Fair enough. Moving on, treasurer's report. A, approval of Board of Education minutes, March 17, 2025, regular meeting. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Kress?
Yes.
Dr. Hinkleman?
Yes.
Mrs. Brumbaugh?
Yes.
Mrs. Kim Parsons?
Abstain.
Mr. Diaz?
Yes.
Motion passed 4-0.
B, approval of Board of Education minutes, March 20th, 2025. This is the WMUT meeting. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Roll call, please.
Dr. Hinkleman?
Yes.
Mrs. Brumbaugh?
Yes.
Mr. Kress?
Yes.
Mrs. Kim Parsons? Yes. Mr. Diaz?
Yes. C, approval of Board of Education minutes, March 26, 2025, special meeting. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Roll call, please.
Dr. Hinkleman?
Yes.
Mrs. Kim Parsons?
Yes.
Mrs. Brumbaugh?
Yes.
Mr. Kress?
Yes.
Mr. Diaz?
Yes. Approval of Board of Education minutes, April 2nd, 2025, special meeting. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Kress?
Yes.
Mrs. Kim Parsons?
Yes.
Dr. Hinkleman?
Yes.
Mrs. Brumbaugh?
Yes.
Mr. Diaz?
Yes. E, approval of March financial report. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
All right. You're up.
Okay. Okay, so as you can see, things are taking a little bit of a turn we had some somewhat okay news for the months coming up, leading up into this, and we kind of saw a dip in February, but you can see in March, the general fund actual amount is a little bit lower than what we were budgeting, and we've talked about some of those expenses that have come along. We'll go over that here in just a minute. So you can see revenues were approximately 13.5 million is what we were expecting by this time, and we've received 13.492. Expenditures are just a little bit higher than expected, not as much as the revenue that we haven't received yet, but it's still there. So what is the reasoning behind that? So just to make a couple of notes on what I already have in the notes. I talked to Chris Moore at K-12. Although that the property tax amount that we just received was just a little bit lower than budgeted, he is seeing trends across the state that folks are not paying all of their property taxes in one lump sum in the very beginning, just to the large reappraisals. Now we don't have that right now in Miami County, but it was more just worth noting that we're seeing those trends. So I mean, 39,000. It is a little bit less, but it's immaterial compared to the other items. But it was just worth mentioning. Tangible property tax, which we also received, was 7% higher than what we budgeted. There was an increase last year with the PUP tax, the public utility property tax, for the public utility lines that run through the district. So they are seeing a trend of that increasing the last sentence on there. It was increased 1.9 million throughout the state. The amounts that we are receiving from the state, we've talked about this before, while Milton-Union does on the books have steady enrollment with the district, the ADM that is used to calculate the state funding and where the funds are divvied up, because the funding does follow the students, we have to consider that we have students that are going to parochial schools, those who go to the CTC, the funding follows them as well, or if they are taking a class that is housed at Milton-Union but is a CTC class, that funding will go with the student. So the overall enrollment of the students is remaining steady, but we do have the quote-unquote butts in seats is decreasing a little bit, which is causing a little bit of a decrease in the funding. So the revenues are just 0.5% lower than budgeted. We'll kind of watch that just to see, but the one line to really consider is that amount that is coming in from the state for the ADM of the kiddos that are attending elsewhere. I've said it several times, our purchase service line is getting blown out of the water a little bit just because of the increases that we've had to make to Miami County. We've already gone through all of that. Supplies and materials are running below budget. I've said we'll watch it. We are going to make an adjustment in the May 5-year forecast. So as of right now, the expenditures are 4% higher than budgeted, which is it's not too bad right now. So we'll really see what comes out of everything in May when all the bills are paid.
Do you have any thoughts on why supplies and materials lower?
Just that we've really said no purchasing unless absolutely needed. I mean, Brad and I have been the king and queen of saying no. Sorry, Katie. Sorry, Curtis. And sorry, building principals. But we haven't really said no at this point, unless it's absolutely needed. Yes. Yes.
So we purchased curriculum materials that include student work texts and workbooks, and we're using a lot less paper as well.
Yes. Your cash summaries, you guys are going to see a transfer into the athletic funds. That is standard this time of year to help support the coaches' salaries or any expenses that are coming out of there that are not picked up by the fees that are coming in. The negatives down within your, we call them the 500 funds. Those are being supported by project cash requests. So the expenses occur, and there's a negative on the cash summary report at the end of the month, and then we do what's called a PCR, project cash request, from the state to get those funds that are obligated to us. Nothing too crazy within the investment report. We did open up that second account with Star Ohio, so the very top line, the First National Bank of Omaha, it did mature here in April, and we did have it go into the new Star account so that the accounts are more liquid. So we will see kind of the balance with MBS starting to go down just a little bit, just so we can have the cash liquid should we need it over the next coming months and years. And the reason we did that, as you can see, I don't have a pointer, but as you can see, the average yield on the MBS accounts is the 4.14%. You scroll back up here at the top, under the third column from the left, you can see that Star Ohio is yielding 4.46 percentage rate right now. So on top of it being liquid, it is earning a little bit more interest in those Star accounts.
So there is 2 Star accounts now?
There are two. Yes, there are 2.
Let's see one.
So that's because this was for the end of March.
Okay.
That First National Bank of Omaha matured in April. So you'll see it on the April.
And the thought process behind doing the second one was, if we're going to pay off these bonds, we need liquidity.
Mm-hmm.
So as the CDs mature, instead of
Mm-hmm.
reinvesting them and tying it up with almost an identical interest rate or less, put it into another Star account, separate it out,
Yes.
and have it available to pay
Yes.
bonds off.
It just needs.
It's not one bond of a certain amount, there's multiple bonds that can be paid off over time that aren't.
Right, but if it's tied up in CDs,
Right, I'm just saying, we're not.
out of line. Yeah.
Yep. Yes. The cafeteria account, again, on trend, revenues were a little bit higher than expenditures. That's just the cycle that it's going through right now. So there was a little bit of an increase in the fund balance, that yellow line there, just under $300,000. And of course, all the disbursements or checks that we have cut from other checks we cut. Questions? Dr. Hinkleman?
Yes.
Mrs. Brunbaugh?
Yes.
Mrs. Kim Parsons? Yes. Mr. Kress?
Yes.
Mr. Diaz?
Yes.
Motion passed 5-0.
5, other special reports, MUEA.
None, thank you.
6, agenda confirmation. Additions and deletions to the agenda. Do we have any additions or deletions? None. B, approval of the agenda. Recommend approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Kim Parsons?
Yes.
Mr. Kress?
Yes.
Mrs. Brunbaugh?
Yes.
Dr. Hinkleman?
Yes.
Mr. Diaz?
Yes. 7, old business. Do we have any old business?
Oh, question, government days for the seniors.
It's happening.
Yes.
All right. 8, new business, appropriations modifications. I recommend approval of increase/decreases in total appropriations for fiscal year 2025 as presented. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Brunbaugh?
Yes.
Dr. Hinkleman?
Yes.
Mr. Kress?
Yes.
Mrs. Kim Parsons?
Yes.
Mr. Diaz?
Yes. B, transfer, recommend approval of the following transfers. A, $85,000 from general fund 001 to athletic fund 300. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Dr. Hinkleman?
Yes.
Mrs. Kim Parsons?
Yes.
Mrs. Brunbaugh?
Yes.
Mr. Kress?
Yes.
Mr. Diaz?
Yes. C, suspension of administrative contract. Recommend the suspension of the following administrative contract. Cheryl Lowe, elementary school assistant principal, effective July 31st, 2025. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Brunbaugh?
Yes.
Mr. Kress?
Yes.
Dr. Hinkleman?
Yes.
Mrs. Kim Parsons?
Yes.
Mr. Diaz?
Yes. And this is part of our additional savings that was presented at the beginning during the superintendent report. D, Miami County interagency agreement. Recommend approval of the Miami County interagency agreement for the 2025-2026 school year. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Dr. Hinkleman?
Yes.
Mrs. Kim Parsons?
Yes.
Mr. Kress?
Yes.
Mrs. Brunbaugh?
Yes.
Mr. Diaz?
Yes. E, disposal of books. Recommend disposal of the Princeton Review, Cracking the ACT 2016 edition, books unviable for classroom use. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Brunbaugh?
Yes.
Dr. Hinkleman?
Yes.
Mrs. Kim Parsons?
Yes.
Mr. Kress?
Yes.
Mr. Diaz?
Yes. F, administrative renewal contracts. Recommend the renewal of the following administrator contracts. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Brunbaugh?
Yes.
Mrs. Kim Parsons?
Yes.
Mr. Kress?
Yes.
Dr. Hinkleman?
Yes.
Mr. Diaz?
Yes. G, treasurer consultant agreement. Recommend approval of the following treasurer consultant agreement pending certifications and background check. Cheyenne Solomon, effective May 19th, 2025 through May 23rd, 2025, not to exceed $375 daily, or a total of $1,875. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Dr. Hinkleman?
Yes.
Mrs. Brumbault?
Yes.
Mr. Kress?
Yes.
Mrs. Kim Parsons?
Yes.
Mr. Diaz?
Yes. H, administrative contract. Recommend approval of the following administrative contract pending certifications and background check. Cheyenne Solomon, treasurer, effective May 24th, 2025 through July 31st, 2027. Days, 260 days per contract year. Salary, $97,500. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Dr. Hinkleman?
Yes.
Mrs. Kim Parsons?
Yes.
Mr. Kress?
Yes.
Mrs. Brumbault?
Yes.
Mr. Diaz?
Yes. It's official. Position. I, order to pay school district funds. Recommend approval to allow Cheyenne Solomon to request appropriate payments from the county auditor, including advance of taxes and Ohio Department of Education, effective May 24th, 2025, and the remainder of calendar year 2025. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Brumbault?
Yes.
Mrs. Kim Parsons?
Yes.
Dr. Hinkleman?
Yes.
Mr. Kress?
Yes.
Mr. Diaz?
Yes. J, MBS account. Recommend approval to allow Cheyenne Solomon to establish and maintain one or more accounts with Multi-Bank Securities, Inc., effective May 24th, 2025. Do I have
So moved.
Second.
roll call, please?
Dr. Hinkleman?
Yes.
Mrs. Brumbault?
Yes.
Mr. Kress?
Yes.
Mrs. Kim Parsons?
Yes.
Mr. Diaz?
Yes. K, donation. Recommend accepting the following donations: $300 from Hoffman Global Methodist Church for 2 students' lunch accounts, $400 from Hoffman Global Methodist Church for the Cafe Angel Fund, and $200 from Joyce and Kyle Croft for the Cafe Angel Fund. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Kress?
Yes.
Mrs. Brumbault?
Yes.
Mrs. Kim Parsons?
Yes.
Dr. Hinkleman?
Yes.
Mr. Diaz?
Yes. L, consent calendar. Recommend approval of all matters listed under the consent calendar. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Dr. Hinkleman?
Yes.
Mrs. Brumbault?
Yes.
Mr. Kress?
Yes.
Mrs. Kim Parsons?
Yes.
Mr. Diaz?
Yes. Nine, other authorizations, resolutions, etc. A, FFA retreat revision. Recommend approval to revise resolution 2025-069 to reflect the following dates: June 5th, 2025 through June 7th, 2025. Milton-Union FFA Officers Retreat at Natural Springs Resort in New Paris, Ohio. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Brumbault?
Yes.
Dr. Hinkleman?
Yes.
Mrs. Kim Parsons?
Yes.
Mr. Kress?
Yes.
Mr. Diaz?
Yes. B, Wright State University Affiliation Agreement. Recommend approval of the affiliation agreement with Wright State University and their continued partnership with the Milton-Union schools. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second. And is this like student teacher?
Professional Development District, sometimes when we have professional development days, we will reach out to Wright State first to see if any of their personnel could provide a presentation on some sort of timely topic. Those folks come to see us twice a year, just to make a connection at the beginning of the year, and then also, hey, how'd it go? So we're scheduled to meet with them next month. It's been good. It's really good for the district. Doesn't cost us anything. We've hired a lot of really good candidates from Wright State in the past, so it's good for the district.
Roll call, please.
Dr. Hinkleman?
Yes.
Mrs. Brumbault?
Yes.
Mrs. Kim Parsons?
Yes.
Mr. Kress?
Yes.
Mr. Diaz?
Yes. C, diplomas, recommend granting diplomas to members of the Milton-Union High School Class of 2025, meeting State of Ohio and Milton-Union Board of Education requirements. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Greenbaugh?
Yes.
Mrs. Kim Parsons?
Yes.
Mr. Kress?
Yes.
Dr. Hinkleman?
Yes.
Mr. Diaz?
Yes. 10, board reports, legislative and student achievement. Linda, do you have anything to report?
I think we discussed what I think is the most important factor affecting us legislatively, which is what they end up doing with that budget.
For sure, for sure. A lot of unknowns. Okay, B, policy update, myself and Lori. I don't have anything. Do you have anything, Lori?
Sure.
Okay. C, building and transportation, myself and Justin. I don't have anything. Do you have anything?
I think we touched upon the big one.
The transportation aspect of the importance of passing.
Where are we at with our current bus driver staffing?
We just approved the one gentleman, he's been going for a few weeks now. We've got a few more that we've spoken to and have started the process, a very lengthy process, so
So I take it they don't have their CDLs yet.
that is correct.
And how long does it take from the time they show interest to the point of getting them behind the bus and driving a busload of kids?
This gentleman who was just board approved and has been doing it for a couple weeks now, he was pretty motivated to do it, and it took right around 2 months.
2.
All right, DMV-CTC, Jim Almal, saying he's not here.
Nothing really there other than the attached the minutes from their last meeting. Checking my calendar real quick to make sure that the senior recognition, MVCTC senior recognition ceremony is on Friday, May 16th at 6:30 at the University of Dayton Arena.
E, Milton-Union Education Foundation, Jess, do you have anything there? I know we got the
We've got the
Classic.
Bulldog Golf Classic. I feel like I'm constantly announcing that, like here in the spring, but that is our major fundraiser, our major event where we make all of our money to give classroom grants to teachers. You know, they write up why they feel they would want this grant in their classroom and how they would use that. So that money is well utilized in the classroom. The kids get to use some really cool things that the teachers come up with, you know, that would enhance their learning. And then also for us to also be able to award seniors scholarships at the end of the year.
I'm assuming you guys have received some applications that you're reviewing?
Coming.
Coming.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Mm.
I remember this time of year. Yeah.
What is the date of the classic?
June 6th, Friday, June 6th. And we have a website, neweducationfoundation.org, that teams can sign up for, or if you want to be a sponsor of any type, there's a variety of sponsorships to give money. You can go to that site as well.
Can you give that site again, because we want to donate?
Yes, mueducationfoundation.org.
Okay, F, Audit and Finance Committee, Justin and Lori.
Nothing on the audit side,
Okay.
finance side.
Just
Unless
real-
she has something.
No, just real quick, I have been hounding the state auditor's office to get our exit with our audit done. They've been really dragging their feet on it. I'm not used to state auditors, so I'm not really sure why this is taking so long. There's no issues, it's just them and their timing. So I've sent them dates of when I'm available till we can do that exit and get things wrapped up before I head. So it's coming.
All right, G, Facility Complex Committee,
this myself solo. I know we've discussed the work that has been done around the tennis courts to improve the drainage seems to have been working since we've gotten quite a few rains, and there's no water bubbling up from the cracks.
Not as bad as it was, and it seems to be hopefully getting better. One thing I've learned with the guys who've done the work is that it does take some time for the water to find its permanent channels to that drainage. So they said it'll only improve with time. We've already seen an improvement with what we've done. He said it should get even better to where it may be non-existent, so.
As much rain as we had, was that 3-4 weeks ago, I would have thought there was gonna be a problem.
Yeah, it
It would have shown up.
I've stopped down there a couple times and checked it, and I know you have probably every morning after heavy rain. So hopefully that resolves that issue.
I feel like maybe there was some water
Yeah.
that came up,
Yes.
from that rain.
But it has not been as bad. And it,
So we'll see how it goes.
yeah, like I said, they told me that it should just get better. So,
Okay, anything else on the facility side that, okay. We'll move on then. 11, information and discussion items. Is there any information, general information or updates?
I don't have anything.
Okay, 12 board announcements, upcoming meetings, April 21st.
No, drop
Oh,
it.
no, I'm sorry.
There you go.
I'm missing it. May 19th, 2025, 6 PM, board conference room. And then 13, executive session, recommend approval to adjourn to executive session for purposes authorized under Board of Education Policy 0166 and ORC 121.22 G1 to consider the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, and compensation of an employee or official, and ORC 121.22 G5 for a matter required to be kept confidential by federal law or rules or state statutes. There will be no action taken after the Board of Education exits executive session. Who are we inviting in today?
Mrs. Hartley, Carrie, and myself. I think that's all we need tonight.
Okay. Sure Curtis would want to join?
Do you want to? I mean, I don't have a thing that overlaps.
Okay, that's fine. All right, time in, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Blumenbach?
Yes.
Dr. Hinkleman?
Yes.
Ms. Kim Parsons? Yes. Mr. Chris?
Yes.
Mr. Diaz?
Yes. All right, that's